A federal judge last week ruled that children in this country actually don't have a right to learn how to read. I mean, if you really drill down on the ruling, that's what it is. I think what bothered me about this story was you have this judge that had the ability to say that, you know, there are some rights that we need to protect.
Right.
And one of them should be the right to get an education, the right to be able to read. And instead gives us all this flowery language. Gee whiz, illiteracy is a terrible thing. Illiteracy is something we got to stop. But I'm not going to show any courage and find a way to make that happen. Now, understand, this judge did not, this judge could have ruled favorably without ever going down the path that he said he had to go down. Pick it up from there.
Well, you know, they wanted to make this as, it's more of a moral issue, not a legal issue. But really, if you think about this, because the people who brought this were representing children who were arguing that we were provided a substandard education that did not prepare us, one, to pass the mandated tests for public schools, and two, to be productive members of society. Mm-hmm. You failed us. Now, on the legal side, they should have argued, okay, first and foremost, we don't have an option to not pay taxes for schools. We pay for that. It comes out of our checks. There's number one. Number two, you're legally required to send your children to school. And so if I'm legally required to pay for it, legally required to send my kids to it, you should be legally required to provide some kind of substantive education, such as learning how to read. And the judge specifically says, you know, as plaintiffs point out, voting, participating meaningfully in civic life, and accessing justice requires some measure of literacy, but that doesn't necessarily make access to literacy a fundamental right.
What's bothering me about this is the judge didn't even have to go there.
Yeah.
The judge did not have to go to a fundamental right argument. He could have mandated, look, you know, it's just like busing. I'm mandating that this take place because you're failing to do your job, not based on any type of, you know, fact that we're reviewing this from the standpoint of this being a fundamental right. There was no need to get there. Now, either one or two things happened. Either the people who brought the case kind of screwed the pooch and pushed it that way, at which time the judge could have said, well, you know, you got another way you can come at this. Or the judge said, well, you know, I'm going to say all these. I mean, listen to this. This is the judge. Plainly, literacy and the opportunity to obtain it is of incalculable importance. This is the judge, Judge Murphy, Judge Stephen Murphy, U.S. District Court. And it goes on to say, like, oh, this is awful. It's awful that these kids don't have an education. But rather than me being creative and rather than me doing something that there's another way to get to it, he chooses, well, I'm gonna save myself. I'm going to say that they're asking me to determine that education is a fundamental right. Didn't have to go that far. Could have gotten this another way.
And 40-page opinion is what it was. Yeah. 40 pages where he's trying to say, I so support your literacy. Yeah. To me, it almost is reminiscent of the prosecutors with the baker who didn't want to make the cake for the gay wedding. Right. That would have been a slam dunk case if the
lawyering had been right.
Yeah. And it seems like the same thing happened here, because this... You could have gotten what you wanted out of this case.
There's no question.
100%.
There's all kinds of mandates they can come up with. They could have said, look, here are the standards. You're violating the standards. I don't have to get to the issue of whether this falls in any kind of suspect classification. I don't have to get into fundamental rights. I can make you do this anyway. So it was either the lawyers that blew it, even if they did, if this judge really wanted to accomplish some equity, he could have gotten there. Yeah. And I think that's what bothers me about this. It's just nonsense. It's like his opinion was written because sometime I want to maybe on a higher court and I want to make it look like I really, really cared about this. And hopefully at that point somebody's going to say, well, you know what? If you cared, you weren't smart enough to accomplish it. A former judicial nominee from Donald Trump was forced to withdraw his nomination after it was revealed that he was sympathetic to the KKK. And that's not even the weirdest part of this story. Good God, this story, I read it twice and I said, was it really this bad? Yeah, it is. Go ahead, pick it up.
Well, Brett Talley, this was the guy, we have talked about him several times.
Yeah,
He's the one who, he never tried a case. He was only a lawyer for a little under 3 years. Alabama. So he gets nominated to this federal lifetime appointment. He's in his early 30s, I think.
32, 33.
Yeah, so he would have been, you know, on there for probably, God, 50 years maybe, depending. But anyway, once he made it out of committee with his nomination, they decided, let's look at his background maybe. He's on this message board for TideFans.com, for Alabama Crimson Tide fans, where he's talking about all kinds of racist things, disparaging Muslims, jokes about rape, talking about how he's sympathetic to Nathan Bedford, the first Grand Wizard of the KKK, and how, you know, they were actually doing some good things.
Trying to say that KKK, they're getting a bad rap. If you go back and look at the KKK, they've done some great things besides hanging, mutilating, and torturing minorities. They've done some really good things. You know what amazed me? This guy's never tried a case in his life. Has never even been to trial. He graduates from Harvard. Well, we know how that happens. Harvard operates. They know somebody. Yeah, he's not. It's not that this guy's a genius. I can promise you, this guy is not a genius. Although he's a prolific conservative writer. He writes constantly. I mean, any day you could have gone and found out something that this character wrote. But here's the real ugly thing. He's with the Department of Justice now, making decisions. His role in the Department of Justice is who should be the next judge. Yeah. He's taking a look at judges, determining who should be the next judge. This guy's never been to trial. We've got this, as you pointed out, this background of writing about statutory rape as if it's no big deal, the Grand Wizard, the right, no right to abortion, disparaging Muslims, on and on. This is guys now with the Department of Justice.
Well, you know what? I'm actually going to go out on a limb here. This may shock some people. I don't fault Trump for this guy at all. Trump has not picked a single one of his judicial nominees. People need to understand that.
Yeah,
he sucks at everything, but he's not the one who's picking these. This is, as you said, it's coming from the Federalist Society. Mitch McConnell is feeding these, the U.S. Chamber, and this is all documented.
Yeah.
They're giving him the names, and he doesn't know any better. So he says, okay, yeah, sure, Brett Talley, there you go. Roll Tide, buddy.
The judiciary is in an abyss right now.
It is.
And it's not just Trump. It's the people advising Trump on this.